Now, you would be my first guest talking about your first credit in a studio film.
That's right.
So it's going to be a different take on it. But I still believe the casting process is the same. I would say maybe one exception is that um, the turnover time for the casting process is probably way longer for studio films. You just have more time to look for actors, audition actors, and give them a schedule ahead of time. Whereas if
Hmm.
it's a co-star audition in television, it's very fast paced, right? You
Oh,
go into
yeah,
the
for
room,
sure.
you audition, and if you get the role, maybe in 2 days from now you shoot, or next week you shoot. I've heard stories where
Uh-huh.
some people even they leave the room and 20 minutes later they get a call, hey, you booked
Yeah,
it, because it's so fast paced.
for
so
sure.
I love to hear your experience in a few moments. So let's start with the
Yeah.
question, simple one. How long were you acting before you booked Baywatch? How many years have you been acting?
Wow. Before I booked it, I had been acting for 5 years.
5 years.
So
Okay.
it was five. Yeah, it was 5 years of just like a lot of training. I remember I would train through like almost sometimes 3 times a week. It was like improv classes on like Monday. Scene study class Wednesday,
Yeah.
and then script analysis classes on like Friday, and then if I could jump in a workshop every now and then I would. So I would say it was about 5 years of that.
5 years. And you're based in Miami, right? South Florida?
Yeah, I was based in Miami. I lived in Pompano Beach at the time,
Okay.
and it's about like 30 minutes north of Miami, so I would just make the drive down for all the castings that were there.
Okay.
It was bad.
Okay. 5 years you've been acting. And
Yeah.
how many auditions? I'm talking about TV, network TV auditions or studio film auditions before the Baywatch, before that one.
I would say it was probably anywhere around 15 to 20 auditions before I got that
Oh,
one.
wow.
I
Okay.
remember there were a bunch of shows cast in Florida at the time, and I remember I would go in the room for a lot of them,
Okay.
but that one I got close on some of them, but the Baywatch one, that one was the first one that came through.
Okay. So wow,
Uh,
15 to
yeah,
20, and
yeah,
then you
well,
and then you nailed it. Nice.
yeah.
So during that time when you were getting those auditions, right? And even when you got the Baywatch, did you have representation? Did you have an agent or manager?
Yeah, yeah. I was my agent was the one that actually got me the audition.
Okay.
I just randomly checked my email, and then there it was. It said Baywatch the movie. The audition's tomorrow. Here are your sides.
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
prepared, be on time. And I was like, whoa! I couldn't believe it
Okay.
at first. I did
Yeah.
some research on the project. Yeah.
Okay. And you had before that, did you have like all your materials, like headshots, reels, resume, website, all the things that an actor should have, to have an advantage?
Yeah, at the time I did. I had all my headshots done. I remember I kind of like got some scenes like put together. I remember one
Mm.
thing I would do, I would go down to like the University of Miami or other schools, and then I would talk with some of the students there, and I would try to see if they could film something for me to have like as a reel, like almost as like a little representation. So I was able to kind of like build my own reel just doing that. And then as time went by and I started booking more work, I started replacing some of those scenes
Yeah.
with like more professional scenes and things that had distribution.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Hmm.
actually met you on one of those student films, short films. I think I don't know, I forgot which college it was, and
Oh yeah, that's right. I
that's the
remember
first time we
now.
met. Yeah,
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 that's right. It
and it
was an
turned out to
Elisa.
be a crappy thing. We got involved.
I had completely forgot about that, bro.
That's
I
where we
remember
met.
that one.
Yeah, we have a picture too. Oh man,
Oh, that was at Nova Southern University. I remember now.
there we go.
I remember. Uh-huh.
And then after that, the second time I met, because after that the project did take off, the short film. We never saw
Yeah.
each other again. And then the next time I saw you, it was my first
Hmm.
year of acting ever, and I was an
Hmm.
extra on Baywatch. I was an extra,
That's right.
and then I ran into
Uh-huh.
you, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And you go, "Oh yeah, I got lines." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
I
But
got
I
my
was so
little
happy.
insects
Yeah,
there.
I was so happy that you had lines, and that kind of like actually that was the day I realized I'm not going to do extra work. It's just kind of like,
Hmm.
even though it was my first year kind of getting to know things, but when I
Yeah.
met you, when you told me, and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I should be doing better. Let's find out. And I actually contacted you that night
Yeah,
probably after
I
shooting when
remember.
you went home, and I'm
That's
like,
right.
dude, man, what's up? Like, what have you been up to? And then you were very generous to help me out, like kind of give me some tips and um,
Uh-huh.
so so let's talk about when you got the audition, right? Was it how many pages or how many lines was it? What kind of how was it? What was it exactly?
Yeah, it was a very short scene. I actually auditioned for a different character than I actually played. And it was something small. It was just about, I think it was 2 lines or
Yeah,
so. And then and yeah, I remember they just gave me the address, told me to show up. So I did the work, outside the room. I made sure it was, 2 lines. I was prepared. And,
did
my
you
audition had a.
did you have an acting coach? I mean, did you prep with an acting coach or those two
Mhm.
lines? You did?
For that role specifically, I had not. But the
Okay.
weekend before that, I took a workshop that helped helped actors make an audition out of just anything that's under 5 lines, because it's like it's like it's quick, so you have to give them a little something extra for the audition, instead of just just here's my line, bye. So
Yeah, yeah,
I had taken a whole. I remember it was a weekend workshop where we worked on small scripts for like 8 hours each day, and it just so came that audition came, I think, on for the following Wednesday, so it was like
okay.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Awesome. So you're prepared and you're ready to go.
Mhm.
Um, so you get there. How are you feeling? You nervous?
Oh
I know you've had 15 auditions.
yeah,
You know how these things go, but how are you feeling that day? Were you nervous? Like, how are you feeling?
yo, I was freaking out. That I was so
Really?
nervous, dude. Yeah, because I get there, right, and I think for that one scene there was 95 extras, and I previously had done a lot of extra work before that.
Okay.
But it was just different to be like, it's like, okay, here's your trailer,
Yeah.
be prepared, you know what I mean? We're gonna
Oh, okay.
take
Hold on,
you.
hold on. I'm talking about the audition. The
Oh, you're talking
auditions.
about the. I thought you were talking about on set.
I should. Yeah.
Oh,
We'll get to that. Yeah.
yeah.
The audition. Yeah. The audition day when you got to the office. Um, like, how were you feeling? Were you? I know you had 15 auditions. So you're prepped,
Okay.
but yeah, yeah,
So the day of the audition, I was actually, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous, right before. You always get
yeah.
butterflies in your stomach before going in. But it's almost like playing sport. I grew up a lot in sports. It's like as soon as
Hmm.
you're in front of the camera and it just hits, and it's like game time. It's like in the zone. So it was like nervous, nervous. It's like, oh, Welder, you're next, and it's like, okay, I was
Yeah.
just ready. Uh-huh.
What were there other people waiting in the room for the same role or?
When I got there, they were actually doing all the supporting roles that day.
Okay.
So there was about maybe 10 to 15 people in front of me just reading for all different kinds of roles.
Okay. Got it.
So,
And did you know the casting director before? Was the first time meeting her?
it was the first time meeting that it was a casting at the time. I was living in Florida, but they hired a casting director from New Orleans
Oh,
to come to Florida and do the casting. So it was the first time I had ever heard of this casting director. His name is Brent Caballero, by the way.
okay. Okay.
Hmm.
And so you go in. Um, how many takes did you do?
2 takes.
Two
So
takes. Okay.
I came in with my choices, and then the casting director, he loved what I did with the audition, and he's like, let's just do one more. Just do something completely different. And then that was it. When I got in the room, I was out within like 2 minutes. That was
Oh man, I
an
hate
hour
it.
drive, 20 minutes to park my car over there in Miami Beach for the audition, and then you're in the room for just 2 minutes.
Miami Beach parking. Tell me, I forgot about that.
Dude, I had to pay like $30 to valet my car that day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
I used to do the same thing from Philadelphia to New York. So I'll take the 2 hour
Uh-huh.
bus and then
Oh
for
wow.
a line or whatever for a scene, and then it just gets over. Like you said, it's so quick. You get in and then I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. Now I gotta go
Yeah.
back all the way 2 hours. And you
Uh-huh.
don't know how you did because sometimes it's so quick.
Mm-hmm.
You feel good, but it's so quick.
Mm-hmm.
There's no feedback usually with these
True.
auditions. Okay. But how did you feel though this time? Did you feel like you got it? You had it in the bag? You felt good?
I didn't feel like I had it in the bag because there's so many factors outside of our control, whether we get a role or not. No matter how good our auditions are, we just never know what they're looking for sometimes. but I felt like I took care of everything. Like I left that room and there was there was nothing that I was like, oh, I wish I would have done this different or that different. I was happy with my choices, but I didn't think I had booked it. That wasn't
Okay.
even in my mind.
Okay, so you just left thinking, I did what I had to
Mhm.
do, and then you had no idea.
I
Okay.
had zero clue. Yeah.
Okay. Fast forward now, when you got the call that you booked it. How many days was it after the audition, and who gave you the call?
So before that, I had to do a callback. Before
Oh, interesting. Let's talk about that.
it was interesting. So I at the time I was living in South Florida. The callback was in Savannah, Georgia, and like I don't know if people know the distance, but it's a 6 hour drive, from South Florida. And then my agent told me, she's like, "Don't worry, they can do it through Skype." And I told him, "No, no, no." I was like, "I want to go in person for
Hmm.
this." I was like, "If I don't get it," and then I'm like, "Oh, mate, what if I would have went in person?" So I literally just I was like, "I've never been to Savannah, Georgia. I'll make a trip out of it." So
Yeah.
I drove to Savannah, Georgia the day before, and I booked a hotel that was next to the building where the callback was. It was just literally across the street from it. And then and I just ended up staying there and went into the callback. And for the callback, the director of the film, he flew from Los Angeles to Savannah, Georgia to do the callbacks. And there
Wow.
was a different casting director as well. So it was the casting director that brought me in. There was the Georgia casting director for the film and the director. And I think there were some and there were some producers Skyping in on the session as well from Los Angeles. So
Damn.
yeah, this one was a little this time it was a little nerve wracking.
That's a lot of pressure, dude. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, exactly. Uh-huh.
Wow. See, that's the difference. Now I'm glad you told
Mhm.
me that, because usually with
Yeah.
co-star network TV auditions, that's
Mhm.
it. You just hear back. You usually don't have callbacks. Maybe for
Mhm.
recurring roles, co-star recurring roles or guest stars, of
Yeah,
course, you might have a callback. But for that
for
one
sure.
line or one page co-star, you usually, you don't have a callback because they go fast. Like we talked
For
about. I guess
sure.
you guys
Yeah.
had time. The director came. The producers are, wanting to see you.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. So what happened there? How many takes did you do? Did you get any
So,
redirect?
so I came in. It was super quick, just like the original audition. I had my choice, the one that got me the callback.
Hmm.
And then the director looks at me and he goes, he's like, "I want to see that again, but give this character more of an attitude, like he's cocky. He's not as nice as you're playing him."
Okay.
And one thing I love about film is that like directors sometimes they give you the freedom to maybe add something, or they're not so focused on like you have to say this, you have to do that. So I just kind of improvised a little bit, with the dialogue,
Hmm.
and gave him that the cockiness in the character, and he just looked at me. He's like, "Thank you," and I was like, that was it. I had no. I was like, "Oh man, I drove 6 hours, booked the
Oh,
hotel." I was like, "Ah, whatever. At least I got to see Savannah, Georgia, and make a trip out of it."
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And this is the role you said that that you did not get booked for, right? You're talking about the role, or you are
hmm
talking about the role that you actually ended up playing. No, it was a different role, right?
I did not. So during so
Hmm.
so during the drive back, I get a call,
Okay.
and they were saying like they were asking me my availability, and they named that it was a different character. Whatever. They were like, "Hey, the filming starts next week. Are you available?" Whole week goes by, nothing. They
Hmm.
call me again. They say, "Hey, there's this other role that they want you to play. It shoots tomorrow. Are you available tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." The day goes by again, nothing. And then I'm like, "Oh my God." I was like, "What?" I was like, "I guess I came close." And then they call me again a third time. And they say, "Hey, they just added this other role in. Here's your call time. You film tomorrow." So I was like, I couldn't believe it. It literally
Wow.
was like I was booked maybe like 3 weeks after the callback.
Wow. Dude, that's a lot of twist.
Oh man, I was to the point where I was like, I don't even want to hear about this project
Yeah.
anymore. It's just nerve. Did I get it? Yes or
Getting your
no?
hopes up high and then
And
crushing
then
it.
like, yeah, uh-huh.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So let's talk about the shoot date. That's when I met you. I think the first day is when I met you. I think first day you
Yeah,
were there, I believe. I know, it was a little bit of a chaotic. Like they just couldn't figure out that scene, right? They just couldn't.
yeah.
It took a long time, the whole day, and then they had multiple days. But anyway, let's talk about when you got there. Um, how'd you feel like being on set? Like the crew, how did they treat you? Did you, let's talk about the trailer and all that stuff.
I thought it was pretty cool because one thing about Florida, it's literally the same crew members for all the projects that film there. So it's a little different, it's so it's the same crew members that like, saw me doing a lot of the extra work. And then when they
Yeah.
saw me, like, I have the mic, on me. I have my own trailer. They were like, oh, well, you're moving on up with us now. That was a cool feeling. And
Yeah.
then also as well, but I'm not gonna lie, I was super nervous. Even though it was like one line or two, it was like one or two lines.
Hmm.
I literally had the script in my back pocket. I was like, okay, I cannot mess this up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And did you get to interact with the other main leads?
Yeah, I actually did, which I thought was really cool. I got to interact with all of them but Priyanka Chopra. She just wasn't on
Mm.
set those couple of days I worked. But they had
Yeah.
us like in a separate the scene took place in a hotel, so they had us at like a certain section of the hotel. So we all had our own space. So it was cool to like, kind of meet them, see who they are on the other side of the camera. And that ended up actually, that one line, they actually had me on the set for 2 days. So
Oh yeah.
it was
Yeah.
it was cool. I learned a lot about Los Angeles before coming. Someone said they can't hear me.
And now you're good. I think there was
I'm
a
good.
first 5 seconds we couldn't hear you,
Oh,
but
okay.
now
Okay,
you're good.
gotcha. Yeah, and then yeah, so it was amazing. I learned a lot about Los Angeles. Some of those guys that worked on that project with me, we're still friends till today. We hang out here in LA. So it was interesting. It was really cool.
Okay. So you worked 2 days. That was due to uh, I think them not able to kind of figure out the scene, right? They're not able to fix because I remember
Yeah.
uh, what's funny is I think they took 3 days to finish it, and then the third day I said I'm not coming back anymore. I just didn't want to come back,
Hmm.
and they kept forcing me to come back as an extra. I said no, I'm good. And then I think a month goes by or a couple of weeks goes by, I get an email saying, hey, we have to reshoot that scene again, but in Atlanta. So they wanted us
Yeah.
get on a bus to go all the way to
Uh-huh.
Atlanta, and they were paying a lot more than the usual uh,
Hmm.
rate they had. But I said, I'm good. No, I'm not
Yeah.
coming. So I was just curious.
Yeah.
So I guess they got the shot in those 2 days, right? Your shot probably. You didn't have to go to Atlanta
Yeah.
again to shoot it, right?
No, no, no. I didn't. For my part, we didn't need to go to Atlanta, Georgia. They were able to get my scene before. I was just supposed to be on set for one day, which worked out for me because I got to work, an
Yeah.
extra day. But yeah, we were having trouble. I don't know what it was with the scene. I wasn't. I just remember the crew being stressed
Oh my God.
over it. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it was because they had like a certain amount of time that they had that location booked out for, but the shooting schedule was just intense. They try to cram a lot into that location, and they
Yeah.
ended up having to recreate that location in Georgia. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember watching. I was just watching The Rock, and he was like, "Dude, what the
Hmm.
fuck is going on?" He was
Yeah.
upset. He was like, "What is
Yeah.
going on?"
Uh-huh.
For a scene where he had to just walk, and that's it. It was
Uh-huh.
just like a walk through the crowd, and
Hmm.
that was a lot of takes for that. They just couldn't figure it out. I don't know what that was. But anyway,
Yeah. For
okay. So why do you think you got this role? Like, was it
sure.
just? Do you think it's because you had like a lot of training? You kind of trained more than usual, and then um, you did what you had to do in the audition room, or was it like anything to do with, like, I don't know, you had a better headshot, or was it just those external factors, like since yours was lot with a lot of twist, you know,
Hmm.
what do you think that
Yeah.
was?
I think I got the part because yeah, the training is just throughout the years built up. It helped me get to that moment. But they were looking for someone that was young in their 20s, and I just fit the physical profile of the cast. And they were trying to have like a very diverse cast. Almost everybody there came from like a different ethnicity, different backgrounds. So I just feel like I fit the image that they were looking for in their head. And I felt like they were trying to fit me in the project somewhere. And it just when it's for you, it's for you. It's hard to explain.
So true, so true. Okay, let's wrap it with this, right? um,
Hmm.
what would your advice to actors who haven't booked their first credit either in TV or film, what would you say to them,
Yeah, if I could point out two things that I think would help every single actor out for sure. I would say definitely have, you know, your headshots on point. You know, like one thing about headshots a lot of people don't know is that it's a first impression. You know, everybody remembers a first impression from, you know, they get from one person to another. And as an actor, that headshot is your first impression before you meet an agent, before, you know, you meet a casting director. It's just, it's not just a picture. You know, that picture has to tell so much about you. And
Yeah.
another piece of advice I could give a lot of actors is just learn screenwriting. This is very interesting because when I started studying screenwriting, it helped me so much with my acting. I remember I saw an interview where Kobe Bryant was saying that he read the rule book for the game of basketball. He knew what the referees were looking for. He knew things that he could get away with that other players didn't know because they didn't know all the rules of basketball. So what I
Mm.
realized when I started reading these books, I remember I ordered like eight to 10 books on screenwriting. I'm still kind of finishing them up. I'm almost done. But I learned, I was like, oh, okay, you know, this scene takes page on, you know, it takes part on page 15 of the movie. You know, has the inciting incident happened yet? Why, you know, why is this character in the film? You know, you start asking yourself these questions before you audition. You know, it's okay, it's a supporting role, and it's like, oh, I see. You know, my job, this character's purpose in this project is to show the characterization of the lead how he's a good person. So you play the opposite of that, and it's exactly what the writer was going for. So when I learned screenwriting, I learned all the little tricks that the writers put into their scenes, you know, and what is
Yeah.
going on in their mind when they write them. So that helped me make my audition specifically more specific to what the writer was going for. Because a lot of times we just make a choice and we hope it's the right one. But learning screenwriting helped me get closer to that choice that they had in their mind.
Wow. That's interesting. I should start taking screenwriting classes.
Oh man, it's like it's like the cheat codes, pretty much.
Good.
That's what it
Okay.
is.
Yeah, yeah. And let's talk about one last thing about
Mhm.
markets, because you and me, because for me, I made the best decision to move out of South Florida. Yeah,
Mhm.
there are some projects here and there, but obviously, if you want to take it to the next level, you got to leave. It's just not a market
Mhm.
with a lot of work. Sure, commercially, you got a lot, and models, if you want to model, sure, but
Mhm.
for TV and film, it's I mean, Dwayne Johnson had Ballers and Baywatch, but that's because of his Miami roots, I feel, his influence, and he wanted to shoot it there. I understand, but if it wasn't
Mhm.
for him, I feel like, I mean, Bloodline was one of them too. That was a great show. But once in a while you see these movies just kind of hopping in for like just for the
Mhm.
location purpose, for a few days, for a week, and then just going back to Atlanta, LA, whatever, New York.
Uh,
So in terms of markets, I know you moved to LA, right? You went
yeah.
Atlanta first. I know that, and then you moved to LA. So what do you think about markets? Where should they be? Like especially before you book your first
For
rent.
sure. That's great. Yeah. So when it comes to markets, everybody's gonna have a market that kind of fits them more as far as what kind of jobs they're gonna get. So the Miami market was cool because it was a great start. You know, I did a lot of commercials out there. There's actually some cool acting classes in Florida. You know, a lot of experienced actors who've been in LA for, 30, 40 years. They're retired and live in Florida now and they teach there, So it's like
Mm,
you're getting quality training in Florida, which I thought was really interesting. And but the market there was just commercials. You know, a lot of them, most of them non-union as well. And then Atlanta, right now, Atlanta is booming. There's a lot of work out there. I spent a year and a half out there. I did some really great training there as well. And then, but that market just wasn't for me. I feel like
mm,
I have like a very commercial look, and a lot of the projects there, they're not really about that. So for me, I was auditioning for so many things that I just wasn't right for. And then so I decided to transition to the LA market, and I feel like I fit in a lot more in LA. And it's vice versa for everybody. When I was living in Atlanta, I had a roommate who had spent years in LA, and he only had booked a single credit, and he was booking like every 3 4 months in Atlanta. You know, I
yeah,
think it's just, and I think it's just and right now the big markets are definitely New York, LA, and Atlanta. But those smaller markets are a great place to start to build some credits before moving to the big market.